I'm Rudy Kesar. I'm a principal in the CDR initiative, and I led the creation of the Applied Innovation Roadmap, or as we call it, the AIR. In this video, several of us who wrote the AIR are going to talk about what we think are some of the most important aspects of the report. One of the key analyses that we wanted to conduct in the AIR was of the possible scale of carbon dioxide removal that could be achieved. In the early days of CDR, and still, there are many reports and commentators who are throwing out numbers about how much total carbon dioxide we could remove in 2030 or in 2050. We found that many of those numbers were unrealistically high due to the rate of adoption that would be required. So for each of the 32 pathways in the AIR, we built a success story, as we call it, in which we assessed what we thought was the maximum achievable deployment trajectory for each of these pathways from now until 2050. And if you go to the individual pathways within the AIR, you can see these individual success stories. So then we took these and we rolled them up into one cumulative success story, which you can see here on slide 26. A couple of things jump out from this chart. First, you can see that we're starting from a very small base of CDR today, and that it takes until 2050 to catch up with the IPCC's assessment of the amount of CDR we would need in that year. Even then, it's worth remembering that this is a best case scenario for deployment, and we're probably likely to end up somewhere shy of these numbers. Reaching our deployment goals will be very difficult.
I'm Anina, and I'm one of the analysts on the AIR. There's a really wide portfolio of CDR approaches out there, and each one uses different technologies and relies on different inputs. That can make it really hard to fairly compare approaches to each other. To help with that, we performed a risk assessment for each of the 32 approaches in the report. We assessed 4 categories of risk based on whether the approach can reach a cost of $100 per ton removed or less, whether it can be reliably measured at scale, whether it can provide durable storage for 100 years or more, and whether it might reach gigaton scale removals in the future. Each approach's section in the AIR contains these risks summarized on one slide with a low, medium, high risk assessment and our justification for that assessment. If you're curious about other terminology used throughout the report or our methodology for other assessments in different sections, make sure to check out the rest of the appendix.
Hi everyone, I'm Isabel Wood on the CDR team at RMI, and I was one of the analysts who worked on the AIR. The AIR explores critical path ratings of each CDR approach, which indicate not only how developed a technology is, but also what kind of R&D activities are necessary for that technology to reach technical viability at scale. The AIR uses 5 categories of critical paths. Critical path 1 means that a technology is so early stage it needs pre-demonstration work before any demo work should be considered. Critical paths 2 and 3 mean that a technology can still benefit from pre-demo work, but demonstration work could be done at the same time. They vary based on whether a demonstration has already been built or not. Critical path 4 means that only demonstration work is necessary, and critical path 5 means the technology has already successfully reached technical viability at scale. For example, mineral alkalinity enhancement is categorized as critical path 1, meaning it still requires pre-demonstration work including environmental impact assessments and measuring, reporting, and verification work before it's ready for demonstration scale deployment. The critical path ratings of each CDR approach is a cool but underutilized feature of the AIR, and those interested in discovering the path a technology needs to take to scale should explore them further.
Well, Gloria C. I was the lead analyst on the AIR. I wanted to introduce the taxonomy that we use to categorize the approaches in the roadmap. We designed the AIR taxonomy to categorize each of these approaches by their primary critical limiting input. For biogenic CDR, that includes all the approaches that depend on biomass, and that biomass could be waste or purpose grown. BCDR is further broken down into living biomass, stabilized biomass, and sequestration of CO2 from biomass-based energy generation, which we generally call BECCS. We have geochemical CDR, which uses inputs of alkaline minerals and reacts those with acidic forms of carbon. Those approaches include mineral carbonation, which produces solid mineral outputs, or dissolved bicarbonates in a body of water. Synthetic CDR depends on energy inputs, and those have to be low carbon in order to provide a net CO2 removal across the entire process. The SCDR approaches either change water chemistry to remove CO2 indirectly from the water, or they capture it directly from the air. The AIR also includes several approaches that do not directly remove carbon from the atmosphere, but instead provide storage for captured carbon through injection and mineralization mechanisms.